Hi, History 640. Because I forgot to record the class lecture yesterday, I felt bad about that and thought I would just upload this video onto YouTube and onto our course website that really just walked through what we did on March 18th when we did our hands-on with text analysis walkthrough. So if you remember, it's on the website under week 9, and what I'm basically going to do is walk you through the hands-on lesson that we saw here, primarily starting with the Google Colab stuff, because really getting that stuff into Voyant was relatively straightforward for most of you, and of course working with the code was not necessarily straightforward. So what I'm going to do is just start us over with this. So you'll see I'm going to switch over to my Google Colab tab. I have the documentation open in another window. I'm not like magically doing this. So I'm just basically doing what you should do, which is have two web browsers open, one with the walkthrough, one with Google Colab. So let's start a new notebook. Called the video demo. Now you remember I suggested starting with a piece of code, the hello world. Again, this is just sort of a standard test to make sure, hey, Google Colab is reading our code, and Google Colab is going to give us output. So I type print, colon, and I'll write hello world. And then again, to run that piece of code, I can either hold my shift key and then press enter, or I can just press this play button here. So let's do that. You'll see it takes a second. We're connecting to this Google server somewhere in the cloud. Boom, it runs, and we are at hello world. So what we want to do now is work with the Internet Archive. And as I mentioned in class, luckily the Internet Archive has a Python library, which is a set of commands that we can use to work directly with the Internet Archive. So I'm going to copy this from my website again. The sudo pip install command looks great. Let's press play. It's going to sit there for a second. It's going to then install the Internet Archive library. Boom, we are good to go. Okay, now in another tab, I asked you all to come up with a collection of documents. So collections and items are a bit hard to tell apart on the Internet Archive, but here you'll see this is a collection, and we know it's a collection because we have lots of different things. And then an item is when we can actually look at the details of that object itself. We can scroll through it, have all sorts of fun with The Economist. Okay, so here we are. Excellent. So I'm going to go back to that collection there because we're going to copy something critical from the URL bar. So we want to work with this collection. Looking up at this URL bar up here, I can see that at the very end, after details, we have pub_economist. That is the name of the collection. And so I'm going to open up a new code window. I'm going to paste in what I had here, but then crucially, you see where it says pub economist up here in the bar? I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to put it right here after collection. It's the point where you should pause the video. This might take a second, especially if you're not used to working with URLs. But once you have it, you would run it. And this is basically, yet again, sort of the hello world of the Internet Archive. We're going in there and saying, hey, can you tell us what is in that collection? And you should see something that looks a little bit like this. Now, let's look at an individual item. I go back to the Internet Archive, and I'm going to click on one of these newspapers. And again, I'm going to do that because I want to look up at this URL bar and see the name of the object, which is this thing right in the middle. So it's before any pages, and it's after details. Now, the reason we're seeing pages and extra stuff on this URL is because I've been to this newspaper before. If we go to another random one that I hopefully haven't been to, you'll see, yes, at this top, we're really just seeing that item name there. So ideally, you should see something that looks a little bit like this. So here, I add another code block, and let's look at the metadata formats for one of these. So again, I copy that from my walkthrough. I'm going to go back to here. And again, you might want to pause the video if you're having trouble. I highlight that item. I press copy. On my app, it's Apple, it's Command C. It might be Control C if you're on Windows. And then I'm just going to paste that here. And then let's press that play button, and boom, it's going to tell us what kind of things we can download from this item. Now to do the download, it's actually it's getting a bit easier because we can keep everything relatively within this. I'm going to say, you know what, I want this deja vu text. That's the OCR text. I'm going to copy the item number down to here. You'll notice it's a download command. And when I run this, it takes a second. Boom, I've got this text. So in the walkthrough, I sort of walk through how you can do this, but basically we click on this folders button. This shows us what files we have on Google Colab. And then if I click this little caret here, boom, we see this. We could even scroll out this thing. We can see that's the text file. And if I want to download that to my computer, I can press download. Or if I just want to look at it, I can actually just double click it. And we can see all of the text down there. Now, the last thing we want to do is imagine we want to build a PDF collection. As I said in class, my workflow is often I get a big collection from the Internet Archive. I like to download thousands of PDFs, and then I like to sit in a chair and read them. So if I want to download The Economist, one issue of The Economist to do, again, I'm going to copy and paste from my walkthrough, change that collection item. Here, it's the only difference is really instead of deja vu text, I'm looking for text PDF. This will take a little bit longer because PDF is bigger than a text file. But eventually it will download. It seems to be variable speeds. It might be a bit slower because I've done a fair bit of downloading through Google Colab. I sort of find when I first start doing it, it's quick, and therefore. Okay, so I'm not going to wait for that, but you get the point of what we want to do. And then the next command in the walkthrough is to instead download all the PDFs of a text. Okay, well, let's do some text analysis. Here, I'm just going to be copy and pasting. Again, I think stopping and starting the videos is a really smart thing to do. But if you note from the walkthrough, I copy the string. It's a little story about geese. I copy and paste it. We now have something called word string. And when I type word string and I run it, we see that story there. I like geese. That's a lie. They are not great. Now the rest of this is just basically copy and pasting. So I run this. I split it into a list. And see again, if I type word list, after running split, it goes down. I have a little loop that will count the words. And then if I copy paste that last thing, we sort of get the results. And now I mentioned one of the problems with this is that, I've got geese there, geese, and then geese. But when it starts counting words, it says, hey, Ian, you only have 2 geese. But of course, we never have 2 geese. We always have 3 geese. And so we'd have to do something fun like begin to normalize it. So again, we've got word string. Remember that being that. If I just actually do dot lower at the end of it, it moves it all into lowercase. And then I could even add the other command in the documentations, which is to replace periods with nothing. And then if we were to count that string again using these commands, we would see that there are 3 geese, not 2. Now the last thing we had was to basically just work with the Economist text. So to do that, we set this up as file name. And this is another one of these tricky little things. To do that, I actually have to open up that folder again, find the text file. There's the text file, and I click copy path. And then I copy that into here. And that's telling the Google Notebook where that file name is. And then I'm just going to, again, open it up using a command that I'm copying from my website. We can see what's in there if we want. It's pretty big. It's actually too big, but you can see it's all there. Let's do blah just to get the notebook looking small again. And then the last thing, I'll just copy and paste this, and we can see we get a word frequency using the above of that Economist issue. Takes a little bit longer because, of course, the Economist issues are very, very long, as any subscriber knows. We'll just give that one quick little second. And then when the results appear, they're actually going to look a lot like what we saw with the goose, except we're going to just have word frequency for the Economist. So while that runs, I'll just scroll up. There you have it. Here's what we did in class. It seems pretty quick when we're moving at full speed, but hopefully if you watch this video, you stop and start, you take it at your own pace, you're well on your way to learning some of these basics. So yes, here we go. There's those results. So it's a good starting point. Next up is programming historian, software carpentry, all of those cool steps on your path to fame and fortune. All right, see you all in class next week.